And welcome, folks, to week 5 of Intro to Law. I'm here today with Professor Dayton, and it is February 21st. This week, you are going to be getting into constitutional law, which is one of my favorite chapters. I think constitutional law is one of those cool classes, isn't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean,
Not much to do in practice sometimes, but definitely one of the funnest things to learn about.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't say I got into a lot of constitutional law practice. I'm working right now on a criminal appeal that has some Fifth Amendment issues and different things. But it is very cool stuff. And of course, the First Amendment to the Constitution is a very hot issue right now. And you guys will have a quiz on the First Amendment due on March 4th. So be sure to take a look at the description of that. You'll have one attempt. It is untimed, open books, open notes. So you should be studying the First Amendment issues before you take that quiz. Um, in the news this week, we have an interesting case, which I will drop a link to in the description. And the title is His Light Stayed On During Texas's Storm. Now he owes $16,752. So this is quite a headline. As you know, the state of Texas, as well as a lot of our country, has been hit by snowstorms, unlike in Iowa, where we just kind of just deal with that. Some of these southern states were not set up for it. And in Texas, they had a lot of power outages. Um, Here in Iowa and in most states, we have regulated utilities that are regulated by usually state government and some local government entities, so that you have a choice of one provider for your electricity, and they are granted a state or local monopoly to provide that. And then they're subject to regulations in exchange for being granted that monopoly. Texas has an interesting system that was devised by a Harvard professor, and it's a retail market for consumer electricity. You can choose from about 220 different providers, and the stories within this article mostly come from a company and an app called Griddy. And this sounds too good to be true. It probably is. You pay $10 a month plus the wholesale price of electricity. The problem is that wholesale price is completely variable, like a bad credit card, and it fluctuates. Normally, this has resulted in lower bills, but as parts of the grid went down, the wholesale price of electricity to the parts that were still working went way up. And it also seems that the Griddy company requires you to have some kind of pull payments done. And they have a very nice looking little app. So people were watching as their savings accounts were wiped out with electricity bills of $7,000, $5,700, or in the case of a Scott Willoughby, a 63-year-old Army veteran who lives on Social Security payments, nearly $17,000 charged to his credit card, which he then had to wipe out his entire life savings to pay. Um, so, Mike, if you were representing Gritty and your customers were upset about this, what kind of legal arguments do you think you'd have?
Well, and leave the regulation to the side for a second because it's a little bit unusual with the utilities. But if you want to purchase anything, including utilities, you sign a contract, right? And the contract probably has lots and lots of things in it. If the Texas uh, if Texas administrative law is anything like Iowa, and it probably isn't, but like in Iowa, the Iowa Utilities Board would look over these contracts to make sure they were had proper provisions in them, and then would say, once you have the contract, it's kind of between the two of you. Probably have to arbitrate someplace and that sort of thing. But you signed a contract when the price looks good, you were okay paying a low price, but when the price is bad, sorry, it's a high price now.
And the professor who designed the system was asked for a comment about these bills, and he said it's working like it should. So in a mathematical sense, it's correct. So we talk about contracts, and when you sign a contract, for the most part, you're if the provisions in there comply with the law, then you are along for the ride. So when you sign up for a credit card, there's probably an arbitration clause in there that says any dispute you have, you will go to New York and arbitrate it, even if it's a $10 overcharge, right? These folks signed some kind of contract, which was probably clicking a button, and they are along for the ride. And we're talking about unconscionability in contract, which is something you'll find as we get into that in the second half of the class. But it's a hard affirmative defense to carry if you are not being put under some kind of duress or being deceived in some kind of way. And I'm guessing the company disclosed that your price could go up. um, so it's going to be really tough to win in a legal sense. I do think it points out an issue that we talked about in module 5, which is that everything which is legal may not be ethical. So you have people whose homes are frozen. Some of the pictures are just horrendous. People out of power for days and weeks, freezing to death in their own homes or in their cars. And then you have a company who is, charging quite a bit of money. And, I imagine they make some percentage of it over that $9.99 monthly fee, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're not getting rich off of this either. And the company spokesperson said that someone should look into why Texas allowed this to happen, which their whole business model is that Texas allowed this to happen, it seems. But it's very interesting. So when we hear talk about regulations and how regulations, some people say that we have too many regulations, all regulations are bad. Just be aware that sometimes guardrails are not a terrible thing. And so we will see. Texas is talking about maybe getting together to talk about some kind of thing to address this, which wouldn't make me feel great if I was out 16 grand. But
Yeah, and they'll do something.
I'll do
If anything,
something.
it's because it looks like bad press, right?
It does look very bad. I don't want to work for Griddy.
No.
Griddy's probably going to change their name soon. Um, so yeah, some things to reflect on from business ethics and looking forward to constitutional law. We hope you enjoy the class this week. We hope you enjoy the videos. Constitutional law is a lot of fun. It's very important. It's something both Professor Dayton and I, when we were sworn into the bar, we took a oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and I think that was a really proud moment for me. I imagine it was for you as well. And so we take a lot of pride in our Constitution. Um, Stay safe, stay warm. Warmer weather is on the way, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.